Clap along if you feel.
Let's try this again. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tech Talk with Bill Baer. My name is Dan Holm. Let me get my audio adjusted here. I'm getting some notes. All right, so checking with our producer on our audio here. Now I'm too soft. Now it sounds like we're good. All right. So one more time so we can get the recording right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tech Talk with Bill Baer. My name is Dan Holm. I'm the CEO and co-founder of IT Unity. And this gentleman right here, the star of the show, Mr. Bill Baer, Senior Technical Product Manager with Microsoft. Hey, Bill, how's it going?
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Awesome. I just returned from SharePoint Evolution conference in London with some of your cohorts, including Vesa, Neil, and Jeremy Fake. And you're obviously here in Seattle. Are you getting excited for Build? And Ignite?
Not as much with Build, getting more excited about Ignite. Obviously, Build's a moment that's coming up next week, but most of my energy is focused on Ignite, on our IT Pro audience, so...
I bet. And you've been working hard. How many sessions are you actually, A, doing, and B, kind of responsible for in the end in the track at Ignite?
So I had signed up for 2. I ended up with 7. And that doesn't include a pre-day on Sunday on hybrid. But we're going to cut that down before the event. So it's highly doubtful that I'm actually going to deliver or endeavor to deliver 7 sessions at this event in addition to a pre-day. So we'll get that squared away before, and hopefully I get it back down to something manageable like 2 or 3. And then responsibility-wise, now obviously we've got our Sunday pre-day on hybrid, a lot of great instructors, many of which you may know. So we've got the one and only Steve Peshka, who's going to be spending a lot of time with our attendees. At the pre-day, we have Fabian Williams, we have Sasha Manny, one of our engineers, who's going to share some exciting new hybrid roadmap and futures information that attendees won't get until Monday. There's still an opportunity to register for the pre-day, so if you're looking to get some of that information early, it's a great opportunity to do so at the pre-day. It's going to be more in-depth than anything that's delivered at the conference itself through sessions. We've also got Luca Bandinelli as one of our instructors, and then 2 individuals you know that were out at Evolutions, which is Neil Hodgkinson and Manaz Biswas will also be instructing. So we've got a pretty good pre-day set up for Sunday. That begins at 9 and ends at 5. But like I said, if you're in Chicago and you can't attend the event because it's sold out, that doesn't mean that you still can't attend one of our pre-day sessions. So definitely look at one of those if you're in the area and you want to learn more.
That's actually good news. I didn't know that you could register for the pre-events without being registered for Ignite. We'll have to socialize that a bit. That's pretty cool. And then there's also a very big event that you're responsible for on Monday night. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Monday night, back in February, I sent out a tweet, and the idea was I hadn't seen that anybody wanted to set up a SharePoint yet. And generally at events, you'll see somebody tweet out a SharePoint at some bar or a venue somewhere. I hadn't seen one yet back in February, so I figured, hey, let me go ahead and just set up a SharePoint. Well, you know, that tweet escalated quickly, to say the least, and I asked for some help from friends at AvePoint, from friends at FPWeb. So, if there's any confusion about what the SharePoint is, it's still a SharePoint, still organized by the community. It's just that after seeing the demand for the SharePoint and the number of people that were retweeting it and saying that they wanted to come and that they were going to be there, I had to put some kind of structure around it. Because it's a community event and it's not sponsored by any given individual, we had to figure out a good way that we could structure it. So I reached out to my friends at AvePoint, my friends at FPWeb, as well as some others to help support the pre-day. So AvePoint's doing a great job from a logistical perspective to just organize over 600 people now that expressed interest to attend through a registration page they set up. FPWeb is doing a lot of socializing, and I believe they'll have some great giveaways there at the SharePoint. Obviously, we'll have some SharePoint 2016 swag. This will be the day following all of the keynotes, so it's a great opportunity if you want to learn more. So Monday night's the welcome reception from 6:15 to 8:15. It's also doubling as Ask the Expert, so if you have questions for attendees on Monday, there's an opportunity to ask them there on Monday evening. But if you have something that's SharePoint-centric and you really want to know, because we're just going to be through our keynotes disclosing a lot of information, the SharePoint's a great place to be, to have a drink, hang out with a lot of our SharePoint engineers, a lot of speakers, as well as the community. And then timing-wise, from the SharePoint, you can move on to the House of Blues if you wanted to do that as well. So this event just kind of sits right in the middle, a little community event that sits right between the welcome reception and the House of Blues event. So it's going to be pretty cool. Obviously, it's going to be huge. It was going to be at the rooftop bar at the Virgin Hotel. Then it moved to the Manor Room, and then now it's going to be in the Commons Club. So we ended up having to just keep growing the venue in order to do so. We've got some music as well. So Chris Givens will be our DJ, providing music for the event. So it's going to be pretty cool. A huge SharePoint.
Well, that's awesome. I know I'm looking forward to both of those events for sure. And for those of you who are not going to be able to attend Ignite, I'm going to pop a URL right into the chat right now, and then we'll put it in the resources as well. Here at IT Unity, we'll be covering the event with a live blog with many of our authors, an idea suggested and really pushed by Mr. Ben Yellen, who's here on the chat as well. So we're going to be able to stream the information in real time that's coming from the keynote, from the sessions. Obviously, Ignite is going to be broadcasting the keynotes in real time, so if you want to be glued to the stream, you can watch that, and the sessions will be up very quickly after they've been presented on Channel 9. But if you want to just sort of tune in and scan and get a quick read for what's going on, itunity.com/ignite will be the URL. Right now it's Ignite 2015, but we're going to unify that down to Ignite. So stay in tune with that, and you'll be able to hear from all of the IT Unity authors about what they're experiencing and hearing, and we'll keep you apprised of what's going on as well. So this is going to be an exciting week for sure. I'm totally stoked. And in leading up to that, Bill, I know you guys were great on the product team at not keeping all the secrets to the last minute. You made some big announcements last, I guess it's almost, I've lost track of time, about a week ago now, on the Office blogs. And let's go ahead and switch layouts into the next layout, Lyman. And let's give Bill a chance to sort of catch us up on what was announced on the SharePoint blogs or Office blogs about the future of SharePoint 2016. There was some clarity given to the roadmap and also to some of the core investments that obviously will be the themes around which all of the big announcements during Ignite center. So, Bill, why don't you take that away?
Hey, great. Hopefully you can see my screen. Is that correct, Dan?
We can go. You can go. We're not seeing presenter mode. We're seeing your slide, not your show.
Yeah, that's fine. Hopefully you can see it. As long as you can see it, we're all good. So last week, we actually on April 16th, we decided we wanted to get out in front of Ignite and share some information about SharePoint 2016 at a very broad level. So obviously what we've been saying all along is SharePoint or Ignite will represent kind of that moment to where we begin to disclose detailed information about our investments in SharePoint 2016. And one of those that we wanted to do ahead of Ignite is just to get out in front of it for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, We do have individuals who are unable to attend Ignite. Although the sessions would be recorded, we felt like it'd be a good opportunity to just broadly share information about 2016. And what we disclosed in the blog is effectively the way that we thought about it. So, before we sit down and develop any product, we think long and hard about what do we want this product to represent, what capabilities do we endeavor to deliver, and what particular customer requests or needs do we endeavor to support, or at least answer to. So as we thought about it, there was a couple of things that we sat down and did. The first thing that we did is we came up with kind of what we call 3 core value pillars for the product. And those value pillars are 3 things that you see here in blue, green, and orange respectively. We wanted to focus on improving the overall user experience from a SharePoint perspective. We wanted to focus on what we call a cloud-inspired infrastructure, and we've talked about in webcasts in the past, which is basically, over the course of the past several years, we've learned a ton about running SharePoint at scale as a component of Office 365. But not only just running it at scale from an operational perspective, but just managing it day to day. All of those activities such as patching and upgrades from a deployment perspective, the best practices around high availability and disaster recovery, in addition to some of the things that perhaps aren't as tangible, that kind of sit on the backside of all of that, which is monitoring the environment, gaining information about how people are using SharePoint so we can proactively design great experiences for them. And then also from a hybrid perspective, we've doubled down on hybrid. And the way I've described it to you in the past, Dan, as well as on prior webcasts, I believe last week or the week before last when we talked about hybrid, was really this shift in the way that we think about hybrid, a shift from that idea of hybrid as a methodology through which you can bring your business to the cloud, to a new approach, which is all about bringing the cloud back to your business, effectively subscribing to the innovation in Office 365. And that innovation is apparent through capabilities such as Delve. We announced some new things around the new immersive profile that's now an aspect of Delve, along with activity to where you can discover information that not only you've been working on, but others in your network or that you're closely connected to are also working on. So we started to look at the capabilities that we've delivered in Office 365 and said, how can we bring those back to our customers in a way that doesn't mandate that they actually bring their infrastructure to Office 365, to where they can just subscribe to some of that information. Effectively, ideas like, could we enable our customers to leverage the Office Graph as a service? Could we enable our customers to leverage our Identity Federation capabilities to deploy extranet? So we started to think long and hard about that concept of a hybrid cloud. And then we also thought long and hard about data protection and monitoring, and some of that's become evident in Office 365, particularly if you look just to this past week and some of the announcements out of RSA. So we announced a customer lockbox as well as the management activity APIs. So, those are all designed to give our customers greater transparency into the events that occur against their data. But not only that, to control those events that occur against their data. Who and when has access to their data. So it's really about putting customer data ownership on them. You truly own your data, not only from the aspect of it's your data because you created it, but also it's your data all the time. It may reside in our cloud, but you have total control over the way that data is not only managed, but from an access perspective. And then again, that comes back to lockbox. So effectively, it's just greater transparency into any event that transpires across your data. And really, think about it as attaching an approval workflow to any activity that we may perform against it. So not only did we decide we're hyper-focused on data protection and monitoring in Office 365, what can we do for SharePoint 2016 that shows that same level of investment? So that's the new data protection and monitoring tools aspect. And we've got some exciting announcements around that. And that leads us into compliance and reporting, really building some new data protection and monitoring tools, improving the overall analytics experience, giving you greater insight into the way that your users are using the platform, and then taking those core tenets of a trusted platform, those ones that we talk about in the Office 365 Trust Center, and bringing those back to on-premises as well. So, long story short, we began to disclose at a very broad level, very high-level investment area approach to the way that we're thinking about SharePoint 2016 from a focus area perspective. And then, one of the things, like I said, we wanted to do is just get this information out ahead of Ignite to be able to share it with our audience, provide some early information about what we're doing, and also to tee up some of the activities at Ignite. So on Monday, following Satya's keynote, you can join myself and Seth Patton, and we'll be sharing our keynote, which is the evolution of SharePoint, as well as an overview of 2016. So that'll be the first thing after Satya's keynote is our evolution keynote, and we'll talk a lot about the direction that we're taking SharePoint in, our vision for the future, as well as discussing SharePoint Server 2016 on premises at a very high level. Then on Wednesday, I'm going to double click and we'll dive deep into SharePoint architecture. So there's a session on Wednesday, bright and early in the morning at 9 a.m., and we're going to talk about what's new for IT professionals in SharePoint Server 2016. So that's going to be the deep dive into those specific capabilities that drive those last two columns you see here on the slide, the cloud-inspired infrastructure and compliance and reporting. So you're going to learn a lot about the specific investments that drive those two value pillars on Wednesday. We also have a session, a cloud search service application session, getting started with hybrid search with the new cloud search service application led by Katarina Hemmervold. And we're going to be talking about some of the investments we're making from an Office Graph and Delve perspective to enable rich hybrid scenarios. So that's going to be another great one to look at if you're looking to understand more in depth about what we're doing with 2016. Now, with that all said, that kind of brings me back to the very first part of our discussion, which is we know you're going to have a ton of answers between these sessions, between Monday, which is going to be a broader session on vision and strategy, and then Wednesday when we double-click on SharePoint 2016. And obviously the great places to learn more is if you see us around the conference center, grab us, visit the booths. Obviously on Monday there's the welcome reception and Ask the Experts. Be there to ask any questions you may have. And then at the SharePoint, we're basically going to have all of our SharePoint engineers that have been working long and hard on this particular product that are going to be there. So it's a great opportunity to start asking any questions that you may have. So it's going to be a pretty exciting event. We'll record the sessions. We've announced that, so you'll have access to the sessions following, but there's nothing like being there in person and just grabbing one of our engineers and getting those hard questions answered.
Exactly. And Bill, you also in the blog sort of laid out a little bit of the timing roadmap for SharePoint 2016. And I know you and I have talked a little bit on the side about why some of those decisions were made, which I think are really interesting and good for the customer. Do you want to chat a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think the old mantra is really time is of the essence. And if you look in prior releases of our Office server products, Exchange and Link, and then if take it down to the client, one of the things that we've always done in the past is we've always sim shipped, which is basically we've shipped in parallel our Office servers as well as our client investments. So effectively, you had for lack of a better way to describe it, a bundle of software that was delivered, at one point in time. And as we sat down with SharePoint 2016, one of the first prompts we wanted to make, one of our first customer promises that we thought about is we wanted to deliver a durable server of an extremely high level of quality. So one of the key things that we focused on is not tying ourselves down to a specific SimShip date in order to deliver a piece of software. And we felt like the extra bit of time that we're able to gain is an excellent opportunity. It's effectively that long tail of testing and validation that we want to be able to do. So we've built in a substantial amount of time to where we can really double down on quality. Generally you're building a product and you're designing features and you're testing features, and you kind of get to the end of that and you find yourself at a release date or a point in time to which you want to release the product. And what we wanted to do is really give ourselves an opportunity to not only develop the product, But then once we reach code complete, to be able to spend some quality time just validating the work that we've done to ensure that it can be deployed, in that same, fashion that we deploy it in the service. The same level of quality, the same level of control, and the same level of durability that you'll find in Office 365. So it was really about trying to design a product that is extremely stable, that is extremely tested, and that's extremely durable. So there's a great opportunity for us to focus on that with that added bit of time between the release. But one of the things is our H2 2015 guidance that we shared in the past, so the second half of calendar year 2015, which was the original date that we had shared very early on, I believe, at the SharePoint conference in 2014. You're going to have something tangible in that time frame as well. So we should have a public beta available for our customers at that point in time. And then between that public beta leading into the second quarter of calendar year 2016, we're going to continue focusing on the product, making it better and better and better. And then when we reach that second quarter, that's when we'll actually release. So like I said, what you're going to get is an extremely durable server of quality that we've been unable to deliver in the past.
Well, I think that's really great news, honestly. Watching Microsoft for 20 years, the send ship mantra really created some artificial deadlines that hurt customers in some ways. So I think it's wonderful news that the teams in the Office division took the step to decouple them somewhat. So that's great news. And one of the things you and I have talked about several times, Bill, on the show is the TAP program. And in the blog, SharePoint 2016 update, you put the link for organizations to nominate themselves for the TAP, and I've put that link into the web links module for any organization that's interested in getting in even before the public beta. So that TAP is still accepting nominations, right, Bill?
Yeah, so from a TAP perspective, you can definitely, that link is actually available year-round, and it's been around for a while. Many people just didn't have visibility or knowledge that link existed, but effectively it's our all-up pre-release program link. So if you're interested in any of the Office servers or Office clients from a pre-release perspective and you want to participate in early builds, you can definitely solicit to do so. From a TAP perspective, where we're at today is we've had a ton of interest, overwhelming interest in customers wanting to be part of the TAP program, and we have a finite number of engineers that can spend time with those customers. So the TAP program isn't like a technology preview to where you just get access to some bits and you download them and you run off and you do your own thing. The TAP program is actually an engineering-driven activity to which we, assign engineers to those specific customers. So you've basically got your own engineer at your disposal helping you through your deployment. So I'm not close enough to know whether or not they're still honoring requests for TAP or whether or not they've reached capacity, but it's always good to fill out that form just so we know you're interested in our pre-release programs. Even if it's not SharePoint, it may be Exchange or something else. Definitely go out and do that.
Yep. Now, there are a couple of questions. Let's sort of transition into the Ask Bill Anything part of the session. And if you've got questions, please do put them into the Questions for Presenters module below our video here. There was one that was put into the chat that I'll reflect to you, Bill, which is in regards to your discussion of cloud-inspired architecture and the fact that you're bringing some of the lessons you learned from Office 365 into the server product. So Ryan was asking, will SharePoint 2016 allow data to be encrypted at rest?
That now we're trying to dive into those specific capabilities that we can't quite talk about. So,
That's a fair.
to think about it though, is like I said, we're focused on data protection and compliance. From an encryption at rest perspective, really those are generally driven by, and I'm not saying, you can't do anything, and I'm not saying that you can do anything. So, but what I am saying is, most of the encryption technologies that SharePoint leverages are dependent technologies. So SQL Server and transparent data encryption. That is generally, what you would want to use from an encryption at rest perspective. So there's a number of different ways that you can do encryption at rest today. typically what I recommend as a first step is look at something like transparent data encryption as the path of least resistance for encryption at rest. Then combine that with BitLocker on your servers to add another level of encryption. So effectively what you've done is you're building up layers of defense as you move along. So it's BitLocker, transparent data encryption, and then all of that's applicable to shredded storage, which adds just another element of security if you're looking at something like 2013. Now, obviously, as we've looked at SharePoint 2016, as we look forward beyond that, and we think more and more about security, we do think about how can we natively do things to where perhaps we don't take as much a dependency on another technology in the stack, or another way that we think about it is how can we build better endpoints between the two to where it's an integrated experience. Perhaps there's a manageability layer provided by SharePoint that feeds itself into something like TDE on the SQL Server to allow management through a SharePoint construct where the actual technology providing the encryption is something else like SQL Server. But for SharePoint 2016, I can't quite say anything yet about kind of what we endeavor to do in that particular area. And I'm kind of looking at questions as well. I'm going to answer one real quick about the SharePoint. Do you have to register? The reason we set up registration is because of the interest that we received for the event. We needed to figure out exactly how many people to anticipate, because that helps us from a venue perspective. And that's when I reached out to like AvePoint and FP Web, partners who are able to manage, huge events. If you've been to a Red Party, you know exactly what I mean. So they have the expertise in doing that, and the first thing I needed to be able to do is how do I know how many people are coming so I know what kind of venue. To give you an idea, I planned for 70 people is what I thought, and then, so that's why the rooftop sounded interesting, and that just kind of swelled. So that's, you don't have to register. Registering may get you something special for the SharePoint. So for those people that have registered, there's going to be a set of individuals that are randomly selected that'll have perhaps a more enjoyable SharePoint than somebody who didn't register. Not that you're not going to enjoy it, but we've got something special in store for some of the people that did register that are going to get randomly selected for something. So if you did register, you may receive an email soon.
And I'll toss a question here to you so we can chop up this for recording. Ben is asking, is SharePoint 2010 support going to be extended until 2016 is released? And what should we be telling customers who are on SharePoint 2010?
Yeah, so Ben's probably referring to our support lifecycle, which is effectively like a 5-year clock, and then you reach a service pack, and those dates tend to shift a little bit, and then obviously there's extended support that kind of piles 5 years onto the end. So at the end of the day, you kind of look at it as like a 10-year endeavor. To answer that question for Ben, I really don't have a good answer right now. That's not an area that I focus on. That more falls into the world of worldwide licensing as well as who manages our support agreements. But for Ben, I will definitely do you a solid, and I'll ask around and I'll shoot you a mail and let you know what the answer to that is.
Awesome. Now, there's a couple of questions, Bill, that are similar, so I'll sort of mash them into one, and that is regarding architecture for SharePoint 2016, which I know you may not be able to answer a lot of questions about. But the question is, will the new sort of cloud-inspired architecture, increase the complexity of our local SharePoint farms? And B, is there any relationship between the cloud-inspired architecture that you're talking about from a marketing perspective and the PLA, product line architecture, that has been discussed from time to time?
Yeah, so a cloud-inspired infrastructure is an interesting thing. So I wouldn't anticipate us trying to take the complexity of managing thousands of servers across Office 365 and attempting to put that, in a box. But what we want to do is we want to take the best practices and build those. Yeah, this is a good way to describe it. So kind of had to take a second to think about that. So, the objective is not, let's not try to take thousands of servers of compute and experience and put them inside of a box and just ship it on-prem and call it a day. Really, it's let's take what we've learned, and this is a way to think about it. Let's take everything that we've learned about managing SharePoint, deploying SharePoint, things like high availability, things like disaster recovery, things like security, and let's put them into code. So if you think about the past, what we learned about running SharePoint at scale as a component of Office 365, the result has always been some form of TechNet documentation. So we've put it into a document. We've put it into a white paper. Stuff like shredded storage. I wrote a long, lengthy white paper on what shredded storage was. The idea now is let's take all of that experience, and instead of putting it into a document, let's put it into the code. So let's actually build that into the product. Now, will it add complexity? Actually, it's going to do just the opposite. It's going to reduce complexity. So you're going to find less complexity, because the one thing that we can't do from an Office 365 perspective is have a ton of complexity. When you're managing thousands of SharePoint servers, the last thing that you want is a ton of complexity. You really want it to be as streamlined and intuitive as possible. So, in our case, we're managing thousands of servers. In your case, you may be managing 20 servers in a farm, 10 servers in a farm. But we think that you should be able to enjoy that same seamless management experience and those intuitive actions for deploying and sustaining a SharePoint deployment, regardless of the number of servers that you have. The Wednesday session is going to cover a ton of that awesomeness that we're baking in to 2016. I'm looking at Ryan's comment about.
Yeah, I'll repeat it so everyone can hear. Ryan was commenting to Bill that a lot of people in the community saw the slip as maybe a step backward, but in all reality, based on what Bill's told us today, it really is about product quality. And Ryan was congratulating Bill and saying this is really a step forward, that Microsoft is becoming more customer aware. And I couldn't agree more with that, Ryan. I think you're absolutely right. I think as people start to hear the message that the dates are really about quality, I think all of us will celebrate that. I think that's a great thing. And Bill, someone else is asking about tenant execution mode. Will anything replace that?
That's another one. That's another one where we're starting to get into that very detailed, level of disclosure to which we can't go into. I wish I could tell you something today, but unfortunately, it's just one of those things that we have to keep close until we get there. And I guess one of the great things that I should mention here is as part of this discussion is we won't be doing a Tech Talk during the week of Ignite, obviously, because we're all going to be busy doing something, I imagine. So we're going to do one the following week after Ignite. Is that right, Dan?
Yeah, so the next Tech Talk with Bill Baer is going to be May 15th, so it's actually in 3 weeks, and we'll adjust our cadence after that. And as Bill and Lyman and Eric and I were joking before this event, this next Tech Talk on May 15th will be the first Tech Talk where you can ask Bill anything and he can answer it, which we're all going to be very excited about. So we'll all actually be reaching out to you guys who are attending this Tech Talk and ask you to help socialize the next one, because I want to make that the biggest Tech Talk yet. Because for all those tens of thousands of people who aren't able to come to Ignite, the next Tech Talk will be a wonderful opportunity to ask those questions of Bill and get clarity over all of the future's post-Ignite announcements. So we're all really looking forward to that. And we've got the registration link for the next Tech Talk on May 15th in the web resources as well.
Yeah, and that's going to be... I was going to say that's going to be a great one, because all of those questions that you're asking that you want answers to, even if you're not in Ignite, this is going to be kind of your opportunity to ask where I can actually answer, because we'll be beyond disclosure, and then we can dive deep into those compelling topics that I know everybody wants an answer to.
Yeah.
And for Jennifer, you registered for the SharePoint. You got a waitlist email. Waitlist just basically means, oh geez, we have a ton of people that we didn't anticipate that we were going to have. It doesn't mean that you can't show up. You don't have to register to show up. Let me just put it that way. Registration was just all about figuring out how many people we'd have, so we knew what kind of venue we needed to do it. But I would say show up show up early if you want to get in the door, because the venue we have doesn't hold 700 people. So you're just going to have to, we're working on a way that we can rotate people in and out, and then like I said, we'll have some VIP access opportunities where people will get something to make the event more awesome for them. So if you find me running around Monday, I might ask you a hard SharePoint question. If you answer it, you'll get something in return.
And just to be clear, Bill's talking about you can show up for the SharePoint. You cannot just show up for Ignite. Ignite is sold out, and you do actually have to have a paid registration for that. So now that's the case there.
Yeah, the SharePoint. There's no cost to come to the SharePoint. The SharePoint's just a community event organized by the community, where we try to get together a bunch of SharePoint people to meet at a bar or somewhere else, just to talk SharePoint and have a drink. So it doesn't have any affinity to the event itself. The event obviously isn't free, and you have to pay. And for those of you that did, it's a good thing you did, because it's sold out. But like I said, if you want to attend a pre-day, there's definitely those opportunities. So look into the pre-day events if you just want to show up for one of those, which is another thing that's separate from the actual event itself, with its own discrete costs.
Exactly.
Ben.
And once again, for those of you who aren't coming to the Ignite event in person, please do follow it on Channel 9, follow it on the keynote stream, and follow it on itunity.com/ignite, where we'll be live blogging with all of your favorite iTunity authors as well. We'll close. Yeah, Bill, it looks like there's one or two more questions you want to hop on.
Yeah, so for Matt, he wanted to know how many people are expected at Ignite. There's probably going to be north of 18,000 people, probably closer to 20 than anything else. So it's basically like the audience of 2 SPCs in one event. So basically you're looking at almost 20,000 people, if not a few more than that are going to be there for Ignite. So somebody hopes the Wi-Fi works.
It is going to be insane, and I'm sure we can't trip you up and make you disclose what the attendee party is here on Tech Talk, can we, Bill?
It's Thursday. But there'll be some entertainment. You've probably seen that it's there's going to be a headliner. And who knows? Maybe I'll jam for you. We'll just kind of pan over there. So maybe the headliner will be me, and I'll jam for you. But probably not.
Right on. Well, we have come to the end of another great Tech Talk with Bill Baer, the last Tech Talk with Bill Baer under non-disclosure. So we'll look forward to the next one, episode 5 on May 15th. Once again, Bill, thank you so much for giving all of us in the community a chance to get a heads up and stay in touch with where you're thinking. I think it will really help us frame in our own minds the announcements that you and your team are going to be making over the next 2 weeks. So thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
And for everyone else, thanks for coming. We'll see you on itunity.com/ignite. Take care, everybody.